Shalom, welcome to another episode of Inspiration from Zion. I'm Jonathan Feldstein, and I have the privilege of being your host, coming to you from the Judean mountains here in Israel. I like to refer to it as the original Bible Belt. Inspiration from Zion is a program of the Genesis 123 Foundation, whose mission is to build bridges between Jews and Christians with Israel in ways that are new, unique, and meaningful. I pray that you will find this all of those. Through this program, we're excited to connect you to stories and people in Israel to give you a window to look through, experiencing aspects of life here that you might not otherwise know about. We want this to be interactive, so please be in touch with us at inspirationfromzion@gmail.com and send along any questions and any comments about any topic anytime. Or you can follow and like Inspiration from Zion on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Stay tuned until the end, where we always offer an exciting opportunity, and please feel free to share this with others who will also find it of interest. A few months ago, I had it is a privilege, I think that's the right word, privilege of going to visit Kibbutz Be'eri in the summer. And I met a lovely young woman whose name is Hila, and we became fast friends. And the few days later, oh no, it was the day before. I had come from visiting a new friend, Guy, who's an olive farmer in northern Israel, and we were meeting Guy and going around to prepare for our very exciting program that's coming up just in a week from when we're releasing this conversation, Root and Branch, bringing Christians to volunteer to harvest olives, specifically in the Gaza border area. And from that, we're going to make olive oil and give the proceeds back to the communities in which we're harvesting olives, and hopefully not just giving some money for funding for things that are needed, but also creating long-term relationships. And between Guy, who we met in the north, who's right now, as we speak, in the middle of harvesting his olives. What does he have? 400 acres, I think, something huge of olive trees that some of them are 1,000 years old. So he connected me to today's guest, Yarden Tzemach, who connected me to Hila, came to visit Hila the next day with my friend and partner Marzi Amirizadeh, who's our partner in Root and Branch. And then a few weeks later, had the opportunity to come back to Kibbutz Be'eri. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kibbutz Be'eri is the largest kibbutz. We're going to discuss what that is if you don't know, along the Gaza border. And I don't think sadly is even the right word, but in a devastating way, Kibbutz Be'eri had the largest number of people murdered on October 7th last year and kidnapped from Kibbutz Be'eri, some of whom are still in Gaza. We're going to talk about that as well. But I got to come back and meet Yarden. Yarden, and I don't know, Yarden, you get to meet a lot of people, and you're in charge of a lot of the agriculture there. And I just saw a fabulous picture you were telling me before we started recording, how you're in the beginning of a months-long avocado harvesting season, and Be'eri produces a whole lot of avocado every year. But I felt an immediate click with Yarden, his warmth, his sincerity, really representing, I think, just the salt of the earth people that you find there, but also wanting to reach out, wanting to build bridges, and noting that in their beautiful community, and it is a beautiful community, a place that you would just love to live, even with all of the devastation from a year ago. They have stunning large olive trees that I'm hoping 2 weeks from now we will have picked all the fruit of and made great oil that we will give you an opportunity to buy as well. So I wanted to reach out. This is our second conversation with a resident and member of Kibbutz Be'eri. It's now we're bookending the anniversary, both October 7th and on the Jewish calendar that we observed just 2 weeks ago from that horrible massacre. And I made a mistake when I visited Yarden. I only waited until the end. After clicking and talking about the fruit, I said, "How is your family?" And I didn't know your story then, Yarden. So forgive me for that, but we're going to talk about that today. But first, I just want to welcome you and thank you for joining us in this conversation today on Inspiration from Zion.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like I want to tell people, I don't think anyone overseas can really ever imagine what a kibbutz is, what kibbutz life is like. Can you paint a picture there? I assume you were born there and grew up there?
Yeah, I was born in Be'eri. I'm third generation in Be'eri.
Wow,
So my grandparents are here since the early days of the kibbutz.
which was in the 1940s, before the founding of the state, correct?
Correct. Yes,
Yeah,
in 46.
1946. And what does a kibbutz mean? What is it? For you, it's your life. It's probably nothing unusual, but you grow up around all the rest of us who are living in towns and cities and other kinds of communities.
So a kibbutz traditionally is a very democratic, and it used to be more a socialist community that own we don't own our homes. We live in a community which is it's a collective kibbutz like the old days. One of the last ones in Israel that are still collective kibbutz. So for me, growing up in a kibbutz is growing up next to your best friends, your family. Be running around. In the lawns, there is not a lot of cars. You can go anywhere. Even when I was in kindergarten, I could already go by myself from my home to the kindergarten because it's very safe. Everybody knows each other, so it's a big community. It's a big family in a way.
Yeah,
Even these days, when I decided to come back to the kibbutz about 6 or 7 years ago, the kibbutz haven't changed much. So my I don't have children, but my niece and nephews, for example, are the same. They can go around cross the kibbutz by themselves with 4 or 5 years old. It's very safe. So it's very safe and it's really friendly, and it's the best place in the world for us to grow up and to to start a family. This is
yeah,
why many of us decided to come back. Over 80% of the people decide to come back to live in Be'eri eventually.
now when you say come back, meaning you grew up and you go out for a little bit, but
Yeah.
when you get older, and you realize, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie The Wizard of Oz, but when Dorothy says there's no place like home, that's really it.
Yes. And there is no place like home. And once all your friends are coming back and your siblings, and so what can you get yet better than that?
Right. I agree. I spent a summer working here in the 1980s on another kibbutz, and it was just something that you connect with and you get a sense of the freedom in the community. And I think as much as Israel offers an amazing quality of life for people and for families, I think kibbutz is probably the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake as far as how that quality of life exists. Um, you so a year ago, let's come into what happened. Like why am I even talking to you as compared to someone else? A year ago, October 7th, 6:30 in the morning, rockets, air raid sirens, and all of a sudden terrorists started storming Israeli communities all along the Gaza border. Be'eri is what, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers from the border?
About 4 kilometers, so just over 2 miles.
Right. And if I remember correctly, you weren't there that day.
Correct.
Can you explain?
I was actually away on that day. I was camping on the beach with friends. There were about 15 of us, friends from all from Be'eri, and we camped. We usually camp in a beach called Zikim Beach, which is
Oh,
the
whoa.
southernmost beach in Israel, just on the border with Gaza. For some reason, we decided this time to go a little bit further north, not because we were afraid of terrorists. There was a pollution in the water near the Zikim beach. So we decided to go an hour north to Ashdod, and we were just camping over there for the whole weekend, 2 nights, and Saturday morning, 6:30 a.m., we woke up to sirens near Ashdod. And so we realized what's going on. Of course, we didn't realize that there are terrorists in the kibbutz, but we realized that there are rockets. In a way, we are used to rockets since we are living with the rocket threat for 20 years now. So in a way, we are used to it, but of course, there was never any terrorist storming the kibbutz, as you said. There was never a terrorist crossing the border coming towards Be'eri. The only threat that we had so far was rockets. And in a way, we learned how to deal with it. It sounds funny or crazy to the people that are overseas and listening to us, but we still learned how to deal with it. It was 2-3 days a year when we knew it's better to, if you have a young children, to prevent the trauma, you take them elsewhere to the family, you visit family elsewhere in Israel, stay there for a few days and come back, and then it's safe again. And I used to
Wait,
say that it's
meaning on
safer.
specific days you would know, or
No,
this was just
once it
getting
starts,
away?
no, once it starts, you know that it's probably gonna go on. They shoot at us, and then we shoot at them, and it goes on for a day or 2 days, and
Got it.
then there is a kind of a ceasefire and continue. So this is what we thought is the case also in this time on October 7th. So we packed our stuff and were headed towards the kibbutz. When the police stopped us just south of Ashkelon, at first we didn't realize what's going on. Why are they stopping us? And then from the WhatsApp groups and from our friends and family that are still in Be'eri, and from the community members, we realized that there are terrorists penetrated the kibbutz. And then we started to realize what's going on. I was in the security team of the kibbutz for the past 7 years. So I had a rifle in my home, and I tried to think what's the best way that I can do. First of all, we were about an hour north of the kibbutz. So, every time we practiced with the security team, the IDF always told us, even if there will be terrorists crossing the border in Gaza, the IDF will be there in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So he said, okay, it's irrelevant for me to try. I'm just going to call a friend of mine, a neighbor of mine. And this is what I did. I called a neighbor of mine. I told him, where is my gun safe? What's the combination to the safe? And he went out, he took my gun, he took my rifle, my magazines and everything. And he went out to fight. And since that happened, I didn't try to come back to Be'eri anymore. I figured that I can be more helpful supporting my family from a distance, that we're all in the safe room. We are 5 siblings, so we are a big family. Each
Yes.
of us were in a different place. I was the only one that was away. So through the whole day, I just stayed in a gas station near Ashdod, and I supported my family from a distance.
Now, and you didn't know that there were terrorists in the kibbutz and the threat that was there, but you also didn't know that where the police stopped you, had you continued a little further south, you would have encountered terrorists on the road where they were killing everybody who they saw. So in the end, I mean, thank God you're here, but that was something that you would have gone into much more danger had you tried to continue.
Correct. They were making an ambush on the roads, and they pretty much managed to shoot everyone that was to murder everyone that was driving this road, at least in the first few hours.
Yeah. Yarden, I want to take a very quick break. I feel bad even interrupting this conversation. We're going to take a very quick break and then come right back.
I'm gonna close the door for a second.
So, I want to talk about that day, but I like to go backwards a little bit. You were born on Kibbutz Be'eri, you grew up there, you come back as an adult, um, 4 kilometers from Gaza. And you very interesting. I'd never heard this before. The army saying, well, even if the terrorists were to get in, we'll be there within 15 or 20 minutes. So there was a concept that maybe that might happen. I want to know two things, if you don't mind. Did you ever think it would happen? And what was your connection to the Gazan residents? Did you have any relationships that made you feel one way or another toward where you lived and whether a terror attack actually in Be'eri could happen?
There was something that they were saying, but it was like they always said we're preparing you to the worst case scenario, but don't worry, it will never happen. I thought, that if they will get the chance, maybe one or two terrorists will be able to cross the fence and to get there. So this is one of the reasons that we kept a security team in the kibbutz, and I decided to be in the security team and to keep a rifle in my home because I thought it's possible, but we never thought something in that scale will ever happen, of course. As to the Gazan people, we were neighbors, but we didn't really were neighbors. We couldn't go to Gaza. They couldn't. In the last 3 years, we had a bit workers that came to help us or to work for us for the picking of the fruits. This is the kind of workers that the government supplied gave us. We didn't have the option. These were the only workers that we could have. And so there were Gazan workers for the past 3 years before October 7th. But I can't say that we had, even though we were neighbors, we can't say that there were any relationship between us and
Right.
them. There was, sometimes a working relationship as they would come to work for us. But in the past, there used to be, until about 20 years ago, there used to be workers that came every day from Gaza to Be'eri, doing the working in the construction, electricity, things like that. But that all ended about 20 years ago. So
Yeah. But also, and you're too young, I suspect, but also until the 1990s, there were Israelis who went into Gaza all the time. Would go, you mentioned going to the beach, people go to the beach, they would go shopping. It was a very normal thing, wasn't it?
yes, and I even had the opportunity to go in 1999 to go with my father and with my father and my grandfather to Gaza. And yeah, we were on the beach, we were in the market. I've only been there once, at least as a civilian, but yeah. So when I was 13-year-old on the 1999, I still had the opportunity to go there.
Interesting. Okay. Now let's move back to, if you don't mind, to October 7th. You're in a gas station near Ashdod. A good, in normal traffic, under an hour or so to get back to Be'eri. And you're getting all these text messages. And I do want to emphasize the point because it's very significant that you, as a member of the rapid response team, Kitat Konanut, you had a gun. You didn't have it with you, but you had a gun there on the kibbutz. What was happening? What were you hearing that morning?
I started to hear that in multiple areas on the kibbutz, people are hearing gunshots and they're hearing, of course, everybody were in their safe rooms because of the rockets that were flying early in the morning. But people started to hear gun shootings and Arabic outside their window. So people started to realize. And since I collected the dots and I said, okay, this woman is hearing and this guy is also hearing, but they are not even neighbors. So I figured that it's not 2 or 3 terrorists. There are many of them because they are in multiple places in the kibbutz. And there was not much that I could do, but I was trying to prepare my parents and my siblings that were there. My oldest brother was also in the Kitat Konenut, and he went out to fight, to protect the community. He left his wife and two children at home. He directed his wife how to put the baby's bed under the handle of the safe room door, and how to put
Oh,
the fridge in front of the main door of the house. And he went out with his rifle and he went out to fight. And also the rest of my family was in their safe rooms. So I try to just to support and to be in contact with each of them. Every few minutes I would send a message to make sure that everyone is fine and how I can help. Later in the afternoon and during the night until Sunday morning, I was directing army forces into the kibbutz. I was like a middleman between the people of the kibbutz. They sent me the messages with information of where they are or where they are hearing shootings, and I moved it to the war room of the army, and then they would know where to send their troops. But in the first 7 hours, there was the IDF was not there.
right. And that was actually publicized, what I want to say 2 months ago, maybe 3 months maximum. There was a big article and expose of the, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to say the failure, but the fact that the army didn't go in, and not only didn't go in, but was waiting outside because there was not instruction or clarity as to whether to go in, how to go in, and that there was no, that in fact they weren't prepared. In fact, they weren't prepared.
It was a failure, and they weren't prepared. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned your brother. This is where I feel guilty, and it's it may never, maybe you didn't even recognize it when we first met that time, and I only asked you at the end about your family, and you told me about your brother. Because that really should be the first thing that we should be having in conversations, not just with people in the Gaza border communities, but all around Israel. We're all, us not like you, but everyone's dealing with levels of trauma. That should be the first conversation. You told me about your brother. Can you tell everyone else, please?
Yeah. So my brother, after he left his wife and children behind and went out to fight to protect the community. He was sitting on a strategic point in the dental clinic. This is the place where they kept the injured members of the Kitat Konenut, the security team, and the medical team of the kibbutz were there. So my brother Shachar, along with Eitan Haddad, the other member of the Kitat Konenut, were there to protect their injured friends and the medical team of the kibbutz. But also they were in a very strategic point in the kibbutz next to two major junctions, and they actually managed to fight off the terrorists and prevent them from crossing these junctions, and they managed to kill tens and tens of terrorists and to prevent them from getting to the center of the kibbutz. And they did so for 7 hours. The IDF was still not there the whole time, and they fought for 7 hours. But after 7 hours, unfortunately, they ran out of ammunition, and then they couldn't fight anymore. So the terrorists went on and murdered them and the rest of the people that were in the dental clinic. There are two survivors from this fight. One is Nirit. She was the nurse. She was hiding in the bathroom. And the other one is Yair. He was one of the injured members of the security team. He was already covered with his own blood and vomited on himself and everything. So when the terrorists arrived, he just pretended to be dead. He played dead. So this is what saved him. But the rest of them, including my brother, Shachar, and Eitan, who was also a very good friend of mine, they were murdered along with the medical team of the kibbutz and the other injured members that were there.
And if I'm not mistaken, more than 100 people from the kibbutz were killed.
Yes, 102 in total. Some were murdered on October 7th. A few other of them were murdered in captivity in Gaza. 36 were kidnapped. So the last one that was murdered from Be'eri was Carmel Gat. She was murdered. She was one of the 6 hostages that were executed in Rafah
At the end of
a month
August.
ago, in the end of August. So yeah, the total we have 102 members that were murdered. This is out of a community of 1,200 people, so
Yeah.
it's about 10% of the population. Almost each family was affected in one way or another. Some lost a brother like myself, some lost their parents, some of the family were totally wiped out. Yeah, and this is a small community, so it's still we are all connected and we are all
That's the
one big
thing.
family in
Right.
a way. Yeah.
Right.
We are all connected in multiple ways.
Yeah. I imagine of the 102 people, there's nobody you didn't at least know casually, correct?
Correct. I
Yeah.
know all of them for all my life.
So I have two questions. I don't know which direction to go. Um, I think maybe we talked about it. I don't know. But I know I want to use an example. That morning, my son and my son-in-law were both called up into reserves. My son went down right away, and he was in another kibbutz the next day, still fighting terrorists on the
Mhm.
8th. My son-in-law, his base is south of Be'eri in a place called Re'im, right near where the Nova Music Festival took place, and he was told not to come down because the roads were dangerous and his military base had been infiltrated by terrorists, and he probably would have been killed if he had gone down there. And I think he will feel guilty to the rest of his life that he didn't go down, that he didn't do more. How do you, Yarden, you're sitting at a gas station, oh, what, 15 miles maybe from home when all of this is happening? How do you deal with that today? Is there a sense of guilt? Is there a sense of you wish you had done something different?
At the beginning, I did have the feeling of guilt, especially after losing my brother, and I thought maybe I could be there with him to help him. But, when the time went by, I realized that, first of all, I gave my gun away about 10 minutes after the terrorists infiltrated the kibbutz. My neighbor was already taking my gun and went out and he fought and he did well. He managed by himself to kill by about 15 terrorists. So, I did feel guilt at the beginning, but I know now that I managed to help a lot, whether it's to the rest of my family or other members of the community with support and with directing the IDF troops later on, basically from the afternoon until Sunday morning,
Yeah.
the whole night. So it was something that, once you experience something like this, you can't, I think you will feel guilt no matter what happens. But eventually the logic told me that I did whatever I could and I managed to help a lot. So I'm happy that at least I could help.
Right. You could, and you did. And so what you're describing obviously made a big difference. And had you been there and had you gone out with your brother, you could have been the 103rd person who
Yes.
was killed. And you would have taken down terrorists in the process, but your fate might have been the same. And ultimately, our fate is only in our hands to a limited degree anyway. Yarden, I want to take one last quick break, and I'd like to come back and talk to you more about life there today and the future. 1 minute. Okay, Yarden. You know what? I don't think I can thank you enough. I hope that you don't think, and others, when we have these conversations, don't think that it's voyeurism, like it's people looking to try and peek in on something that's illicit or creepy. And I hope that it's something that's comforting and gives you strength, chizuk. But when I've only been to Be'eri 2 or 3 times. It's beautiful, and if you look, and if your back is to the buildings that have been destroyed, it's stunning. It's beautiful. It's a place that anyone would be happy, thrilled to live and raise a family. Um, but how do you live there now? Most of the community hasn't come back yet. How do you live there now, when every day you're going by the houses in which the people were killed, and there's still so many signs of that, and most people haven't come back yet?
Yes, so I came back to live in Be'eri. The first time I came back to Be'eri was very just few days after October 7, but I started to come back to live in Be'eri about 2 weeks after October 7 already, or in the beginning of the end of October. I already started to sleep there some of the days, and I came back to work and to, first of all, to pick all the fruits that we had to pick, with the help of amazing volunteers from Israel and from
Yeah.
around the world, basically, who came and helped us for several months and picked all the fruits with us, that we were relying on Thai workers and Palestinian workers, and we didn't have neither of them. So we had to pick the fruits, and we called out through social media and through the media that we need help picking the fruits, and the amazing people of Israel and people from around the world came to help us, and it was an amazing experience. But for me, coming back to Be'eri in the first few days, I saw all the devastation. I felt the urge to come back and to do whatever I can to fix and to rebuild this place. I wasn't there to fight on October 7. I know that I helped, but in the first few days, I felt like I could do more, and it was my time to, in a way, to help. I wasn't there. I wasn't fighting in the security
Oh, I
team,
see.
and I
Okay.
wasn't in the safe room fighting for the handle, or just feeling the terror of everyone who was in Be'eri on that day. And I felt the need to do my part now and to do whatever I can for the community. And I came back after 2 weeks to live in Be'eri. I work, I still work, 2 jobs, and do whatever I need for the community. And it's true that you go by and you have these memories, and you know that in every corner something horrible happened. But we will live with these memories anyway, wherever we will be.
Good
Uh,
point.
this is also our home. So for me, the mission and gives me a big sense of uh, of meaning to go and do something that is bigger than myself, and to be a part of the rebuilding of Be'eri. And to rebuild Be'eri for me is not just about Be'eri. It's about coming back to Be'eri is not about just about me or Be'eri. It's something that is bigger than that. It's about the whole state of Israel, and about even the free world. If we will back down and we will abandon this place, the border will, there will be much more October 7th, and it will be all over Israel. So for the state of Israel to be existed, we need places on the border like Be'eri, and especially after something like this happened, we need to make Be'eri bigger and better. And this is my mission. This is I find a big sense of meaning on doing that.
I appreciate you sharing that, and I like how you realize that it's bigger than Be'eri. One of the reasons Be'eri is where it is because it was put on the Gaza border. But interestingly enough, not as the border of the state of Israel, because the state of Israel didn't exist then in 1946. It was a border area. It could have been anywhere along there, and that was the nature of the people who founded Be'eri, and Tell me if I'm wrong, and feel free to go in any direction you want. I suspect that in the last year, the nature of how you look at that and that sense of responsibility specifically to the country has changed somewhat. Am I correct?
Say again? I don't
The,
have
the nature of how
the
you look at the sense of responsibility, where you are as the front line. It's not just the place that you grew up, that's home, that's beautiful, that you care about, and everyone there is your extended family. But uh, am I correct in making a leap that you you that you realize that you are still part of this Zionist project of building the land?
Exactly, you're very correct. I lived in Be'eri not because of the Zionist or living by the border before October 7th. I lived there because this was my home and this was the best place in the world for me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about, we had a great life. We had a comfortable life. We saw that the pioneering days are over. We have great lives now, and the Zionist role of building or התיישבות is behind us.
Is settlements, communities,
Communities,
settling
building
the
new
land.
communities and living on the border. We saw these days are behind us. These were our grandparents who were the pioneers, and they built. When they came to Be'eri in 1946, there was nothing. There was just dust and dust. The land was not cultivated. There was no trees. There was nothing. And they created a paradise, really.
Yes.
For us, it was the best place in the world. And we never thought in our life that we will be pioneers. But now history decided otherwise, and now we are. I feel the inner need to go and rebuild and go on the footsteps of the people who were before us and build the land and build not just the kibbutz, the whole state of Israel. And this story is still continuing. So these days.
What's go as wide or political or anything as you want. What was your sense before October 7th? And what's your sense now about whether we can actually ever have peace with our neighbors?
I don't think it will happen anytime, maybe not in our lifetime. Since the Palestinians they learn from a very early age in school that Israel is the Jewish people need to be destroyed, and it's very hard. It will take years and tens of years, maybe more, to change that, because since they grew up in this mentality, it's not something you can just go and sign a paper and say, okay, now we are in peace. It's something that is deeper than that. It's something in the culture. It's something that needs to be. It will take very long time, if so, to make any kind of agreement. We will just have to do whatever we can in the meanwhile to keep our safety and our security. And yeah,
And what if I were speaking to Yarden Tzemach 2 years ago in November of 2022, coming home from a long day of harvesting avocados, and I asked you the same question about peace with our neighbors? What would you have said anything different?
I wasn't thinking that the peace is in sight back then, but I thought back then, first of all, that probably the people of Gaza are, they want peace. It's just that the leaders don't want peace or things like that. On October 5th, 2 days before October 7th, I had Gazan workers in the fields, and I had about 30 of them in the orchard picking avocado for me. And I didn't even took my gun or my rifle. I felt very safe. These are people that I knew for years. And today, of course, I don't think that there is much different between Hamas or the people of Gaza. It's all the
Wow.
same, even as you speak to soldiers who are in Gaza, they can tell you that in every house there is a tunnel, there is a Hamas flag beside the permit to walk in Israel. So we know now that these people were probably given info to Hamas, and bringing them in the past 3 years was a big mistake to get them to work. We thought that if they will have if it will be good for the economic of the Gaza Strip, or they will have a better life financially, they would like to keep the ceasefire or something like this. We know now that it's an illusion. It was an illusion and it was naive to think that. I guess that's in a way the culture is very different than our culture, and it's hard for us to imagine how someone else thinks. When we think in one way, it's harder for us to imagine how others think.
Right. We project how we think and assume that that's how other people rationally think. And what we've learned, unfortunately, in the last year is that that's not, or 13 months, that's not the case. And and the funny thing, Yarden, and it's not funny, the ironic thing is nothing that we knew on October 5th when you were harvesting avocados with 30 Palestinian workers from Gaza. There's nothing that you didn't know then about all of the facts that you know today, except that we have all gone through that terrorist massacre and the 13 months of war since.
Yeah, it's true. They always say that they want to kill us. We just had to listen. Yeah.
I don't want to neglect as we wrap up, Yarden, as we're speaking now, in a couple of days is leaving on a trip speaking in different locations throughout the U.S. It's something that Kibbutz Be'eri is taking on as a serious responsibility. It's not just an opportunity, but as a responsibility. And I don't have, as we're speaking now, details about how to arrange that, but I do want to offer anyone who's following to please be in touch if you, your church, your community synagogue would like to have host people, because one of our commitments from Genesis 1, 2, 3, which goes back to the whole idea of harvesting olives as a beginning, as something that we're going to do, God willing, on an ongoing basis, and for everyone's benefit, is long-term relationships. So that's what we're looking for, and I don't want to neglect to mention that. Yarden, I think my last question, although I'll always ask you if there's anything else that you want to add if I didn't cover it. Where do you get your greatest strength and comfort from these days?
I think it comes from the support that we receive. I say that on October 7, we experienced the worst form of humanity that is possible. But since then, we are experiencing the best form of humanity. And we are accepting so much love and support from the Jewish people around the world, from Christians, from people who love us and love Israel, and people from the free world everywhere. And it all started with clothes that everybody were evacuated from their home with nothing but the clothes on their body. Most of them were left with a pajama because this
Right.
is what they wore on 6:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. And we got clothes and we got shoes and we got everything we needed, and we got support and therapists who came and helped us, and it's been 13 months now, and we are still getting so much support. And so this is what gives us the strength. We couldn't do it by ourselves. And I had before that I was before October 7, when or on the weeks after, when I started to take people around and show them around the kibbutz, I didn't know the Christian evangelist Christian community or the Jewish Americans, and now I really feel that we are all a one big community in a way. We are all in together. Even American Jews Jewish in New York, his life has changed on October 7th.
Correct.
It's not just the people from Be'eri. We are not alone on this. We suffered, of course, the most physically and everything, but October 7th changed the life of Jewish people wherever they are. And I now realize it, and I know that we are all on it together. And yeah, we are all a big community in a way.
Well, thank God for the positive thing, but I suspect you would agree with me. It would probably be better if, actually, it's a good question. It would be better if October 7th had never happened and you never met any of these people and you still lived in your bubble.
Of course, we will do everything to to bring my brother and the rest
Yeah.
of the people back. But this is what happened, and we are, it was a horrible thing, but a lot of good things happened in a result. Not by any means that it was worth it, but we can still see that many good things happened, and yeah, at least that.
Be grateful for the good,
Yeah.
and maybe
Even in
that
the
good, the
worst days,
good.
you can be grateful for the good. I really believe that the fact that I was saved and that anyone has saved in Kibbutz Be'eri against, we were hundreds of terrorists against 11 people from the security team.
Wow.
Against hundreds of terrorists for 7 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And we still lost 102 and not 200, 400, 500, 700. You know what I mean? It could easily be much, much worse. And thanks to the heroism and the sacrifice of my brother and others,
Yes.
it could have been much worse. So I say I'm grateful for everybody who survived, and I'm trying to, and I see it was a miracle. Everyone who survived is a miracle in a way.
Yeah. Well, Yarden, thank you for sharing. I'm closer to it because I live here, because very few Israelis, I think, have not been impacted. Even if we don't live in the Gaza border, even if we didn't have anyone killed, even if we don't know anyone personally who was kidnapped. I'm very grateful for you sharing, especially for all of our listeners. Thank you so much. And I want to wrap up the conversation now, as we always do, just encouraging you to share this program, especially this one. They're all pretty good, but this one especially so. We always have an offer that when you like, comment, or share the link to this program every month, we offer you we call it a project from Jonathan's bookshelf. You can't see my bookshelf. It's a big mess because in addition to collecting children, I collect books. And but we've been the last year, 14 months, we've been offering our book, Israel the Miracle, which is a $75 retail value. It's a inspiring, stunning book, and all you have to do is like, comment, or share the link to this program, and we're picking one person at random every month to receive this. I do want to always thank our friends at the Willow Run Greenhouse in Culpeper, Virginia, for being our sponsors of this program. And if you're ever in Culpeper, Virginia, swing by and thank them for helping making these conversations possible. And also special thanks to our friends, the Coin family, as well, for their meaningful sponsorship. Inspiration from Zion and all the Genesis 123 Foundation programs are made possible by donations. So please consider joining us to help continue dialogue like this and building bridges. And every episode, we dedicate it in honor or memory of somebody, and I have the prerogative as the host of doing this one, Shachar, in memory of your brother, Yarden, in memory of your brother Shachar, and in memory of the 101 others who were murdered that day and subsequently, and please God, in honor of the return of those who are still hostage after nearly 400 days in Gaza. If you'd like to sponsor an episode in honor or memory of a loved one or special occasion, please be in touch at inspirationfromzion@gmail.com. We love always to hear your comments as part of a dialogue. So please send any comments, especially about traditional Judaism, for our Ask the Rabbi programs as well. And please share this with others who will also find it of interest, and continue to join us right here where we bring you more meaningful conversations about unique topics in Israel that you won't hear anywhere else. Wherever you are in the world, I pray that you and all your loved ones are safe and healthy, and I send my blessings from right here in the Judean mountains. God bless you.